Hi, welcome. Thanks for being here. It is Ignorance Week at our raw material. I am Tavish Carduff, here to talk about some guidance for this week's pillar. If you are unfamiliar with the practice of our raw material, you can enter our arena at any time. You can find information about us at our YouTube channel or our website, ourrawmaterial.com. But for now, you can start right here, right now, within the ignorance pillar, which is my favorite pillar. Why is that? Because the concept of ignorance is one of the first things that started this for me. It started around the idea of common sense and how maybe far we are from the idea that we all share that anymore. As a group of 8 billion people, we've maybe steered ourselves away from some of the more common beliefs into beliefs that actually have us at opposite ends of what we think is true or believe is true. And that has created a space, I think, to find respect for ignorance and use it as more of a space to learn or breathe, just become aware that something is very, very different than how you know it to be. So the question for Ignorance Week is, imagine for a second everything in the entire world that there is to know and ask yourself, what percentage of everything there is to know do you personally know? Whatever that number is, I'm going to guess that it's smaller the more often that you think about it, the more you revise the question and consider all of the things that there truly are to know, that number continues to shrink a little bit. In the vein of, we only know this small percentage of things, yet we walk around calling other people inept, ignorant, not smart, a lot of other choice words. When we really step back and check the context of what we know and our belief system, it's vetted. We know the things we know because we've tested, tried them, and they work for us. That is true of each of us. So there are people walking around with a vetted belief system that is opposite ours, or comes at a square, comes at odds, and we have to figure out ways to compromise because we're bringing different sets of facts or different sets of truths, different sets of values. Really is where that kind of comes from. Ignorance is the first of the physical pillars, and combine it with conflict and wholeness, we see the places where we get stuck when we come up against something that doesn't make sense to us. And I think when we get ourselves believing certain things about what other people should know, especially when we don't know a whole lot about the person, we set ourselves up and them up to be discordant in a way that nobody really needs to be if we recognize those opportunities as a chance to learn something new, not a, wow, I can't believe you don't know that. How you follow the wow, if it isn't receptive and open and willing to receive new information, it might not land very well. And then as soon as we tell somebody a few things that they don't know or understand, we've made everybody uncomfortable, or we've at least made them uncomfortable. And nobody's really going to be able to go very far into the other person's perspective. The ignorance pillar advises us to step back and check the relationship. First of all, the relationship that you have with your own ignorance, and then the relationship that can hold space for anybody else's. And to recognize when someone doesn't know something, it's not necessarily a defect so much as a chance to see how they receive new information and to watch somebody connect the dots or learn or grow. Those kinds of things become really exciting. And unless we're, an elementary teacher, or I'm sure it happens at other levels of education, but watching somebody grasp a concept and get excited about it, those are things that could happen all day, every day, if we weren't busy trying to assert or explain what we know ahead of someone else doing it first, or needing to prove ourselves. Or I don't really want to frame the reasons why we do those things. Just put it out there that yes, we do them, and when we can step back and just be in our own knowledge and learn around our own knowledge, support our own knowledge, we put ourselves in a much better position to handle anything coming our way, and we keep our body clear. We keep it free of that energetic debris that slows us down and trips us up and makes us stop breathing. Therefore, we quit, really receiving good information. Everything kind of stops and slows down, and we go into a little bit of a danger mode or even a limp, kind of method till we can catch up to something that we know again. If we endeavored to do that with the intention to just be open to it, it becomes a whole lot more fun to do. Ignorance can be a lot of fun when we get past the judgment, the shame, and the blame that we place all around it and give it all kinds of negative attention that it really doesn't deserve and isn't really fair, especially at this point in our human development. Challenge for ignorance this week. How about we sit back and learn from sources that we wouldn't expect to learn from? So I'm talking a 3-year-old, a children's book, a reality TV show that's terrible, somewhere where you would not expect to learn anything. Give yourself some time with it and ask what you've learned, or give yourself some time with it until you learn something, or until you see something from a perspective that you wouldn't have looked at in your own mind. Ignorance is such a fun thing to play around with, and we can treat it kind of like a super ball. It's everywhere, and it bounces off of everything and onto everything. Just like we did when we were kids, from one thing to another, being excited at what we're learning out in front of any other feeling we have about what we know or don't know. As always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Ignorance Week and the Ignorance Pillar, and the idea that if we are all 4 times a year thinking about ignorance, we are doing something to shift the idea around it, to give it some respect, and to start treating it as an opportunity to learn what the people around us have to say and why they have to say it, just like we know what we have to say and why we'd like to say it. Have a great week, and I will be back next week to check in on emotion as we start the cycle over emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, and work through these 12 relationships for a happier, healthier, more creative you.